Yo, 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 what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's Stormybman, and I am back welcoming you to the post-fight show with Stormy B Man. And we are here to talk about the fights that took place today, this calendar day of May 1st, 2021. It's the post-fight show, and we've got a ton of fights to cover for this evening, and we're going to take our time. We're going to go through it, and hopefully you'll stick around and hear what we got to say about tonight's show. I want to welcome my co-host here, Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens. What's good with you, Reggie? And another great call by you. And also, I want to say salute to KQKC. The brother was making great calls from earlier in the day. That man's voice should be hoarse tomorrow. He's been calling so many fights today and engaging with the chat. So salute to both of you brothers for doing a wonderful job and covering all the bases with the fights today. How you doing, Reggie?
Doing good, OG. I'm happy I was able to catch these fights too, man.
Yeah,
I'm super happy. Thanks to technology.
Yes, sir. I was able to see it, I'm not gonna say how, but I was able to see the main card for this evening, and I guess that's all that's important because I'll be able to share in the conversation from the post-fight show. So we got a lot of people out here in the chat, people who were there before we went live, people who were sent over by KQ, people who were sent over by yourself. And I just want to take a quick moment out and acknowledge some of the people out here. We got Chi-Town's finest out there. Taylor Bell, member of the channel out there. He says, what's up, chat? Mr. Fights. He just woke up. Big Texas, Cletus Smith is out there. Salute to you, Cletus. Dwayne Jones. Mike 202. We've got Andrew Charles out there. Young World. Murr is out there. Shakers and Dice. I can't pronounce your first name and I don't want to wreck it, so I'll just go by your AKA. Shakers and Dice is out there. Ricky E245, what's good with you? Yo Woot is out there. DT, another member of the channel, is out there. He says salute Stormy B Man in chat. Mark Stearns is out there, says salute Stormy B Man in the chat. Donna Blanco is out there. Crush the Legend is out there, and Watcher is out there. Watcher, we got a chance to see the caveman perform again today. Watcher knows who I'm talking about with that one. Bruce Goes, another member of the channel, says salute Stormy and Reggie, passing through to give a thumbs up. Gotta lay down. OG, hang out with us for a little bit. And we got Sheldon Holmes out there saying salute my people. And William Old School Arnott is out there, says Stormy B Man, salute bro, salute to you. Reggie, let's get right down to this main event for the evening. The big fight that everybody was looking forward to in some form or fashion or another. The pay-per-view event that was to be Ruiz and Arreola. This fight right here, the card was quite interesting, if not albeit entertaining, but a good heavyweight scrap up, man. I mean, when you talk about having matchups, when you do fantasy matchups, this heavyweight fight right here between these two men would have been considered a fantasy matchup, in a future era when people look back and say if they never fought, right? And it produced the exact kind of action that people who wish the fantasy fights wish to see from the fantasy fights. Would you not agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Real entertaining scrap.
So I'll give you the floor to start it off. You did a great call on it. I want to hear your thoughts on the fight, the ebb and flow of the battle. Let's hear what you got to say on it.
Man, to start it off, man, from the weigh-in, just looking at both of these fighters going into the fight, being Andy Ruiz down some 30 pounds, Chris Arreola down some 20, 30 pounds, both of them coming in shape. Now, I thought Arreola may have been past his prime. No, he was in a tough war when he went, balls to the wall against Kawanaki, breaking all type of heavyweight punching records. Didn't know if he had in the tank, but to see him come out here and go out here and put Andy Ruiz on the ground in the first round, I said, oh my God, we got to fight. And Arreola came to fight like he always does. It's the one thing you don't get from Arreola is the fact that he's going to come out here and fight. And it started off as a heated contest from the get-go, from out the gate they started off. Then to see him he came in here patient. I was wondering what kind of style he came in here with. So it's good that Goosen was able to have him disciplined, but I think he could have let him open it up a little bit more. But it's also a good thing to let him pace himself out. But I think at that moment where he hurt Andy Ruiz, he should have turned it back up. But then going even into that next round, he hurt Andy Ruiz a second time. I don't know if Andy Ruiz's glove hit that ground or not, if Andy Ruiz was able to kind of catch himself before that glove hit to get back up. But Arreola still didn't turn the heat up on him like the old Arreola. He would have been all over the top of Andy Ruiz's head. But he fought a good fight. But then you start seeing Andy Ruiz start kind of clearing things out. Matter of fact, he didn't even have to clear things out. The one thing is Andy Ruiz is a fighter. He's a fighter at heart to where he's looking to get his back. He's looking to get his get back. And he still started coming back forward. He cleared himself out real quick. He recovers fast. He recovers as fast as those punches he throws out there. So he's able to recover and start working off his jab, punching down towards the body, mixing in those quick combinations. This kid throws off 3 and 4 punch combinations so fast I trip off of how the heck does he do it. But he been able to work off his jabs, and he began kind of to slow the output of Arreola. But Arreola will still come back, work with his jabs, snap off some jabs, try to get those right hands behind it. But then he started to work through an injury as his shoulder ends up getting hit, like in round number 7 or 8. It looks like it threw the shoulder out. He'll shake that out and keep coming with it. It was no quit. He was not looking to quit. He was looking to get his last hurrah, and there was something even more that Arreola was looking to dig for, is trying to go up against a guy who ended up making the accomplishment in which he was unable to achieve. But to be in a ring with him was something he was looking to kind of take a piece of that pride as far as being the first Mexican to accomplish the championship at the heavyweight division. Is he wanted to take a piece of that away from Andy Ruiz. So he came in here and he fought very well. He was never hurt in this fight. He was able to kind of do the most damage in this fight, but Andy mixed it up well. Andy mixed his punches up well. He attacked to the body very well. Both fighters had good head movement. I was surprised to see Arreola with his head movement. Seeing what Arreola looked like in this fight, I wish Arreola would have had this preparation. It's just sad to see him come with this type of preparation at the age of 40, unlike when he was a younger fighter who ended up being kind of distracted by many of the temptations that are out there. And the being the first Mexican heavyweight, it avoided him. He avoided that, man. And it was like looking at this fight and seeing how entertaining it was. You just wonder what a younger, more disciplined Arreola, keeping himself balanced, weight in check, lifestyle in check, could have been. But this is a great scrap, man. It was a surprising scrap and a great one. And it could have almost went either way. But Andy kept boxing his way through it. But it was a good scrap, man. Surprisingly good scrap.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, Reggie. Very good fight. Very action-packed. A surprising knockdown in the first round. But I attribute that to the new training for Andy Ruiz Jr. more than anything else, because he was working through a camp with Eddie Reynoso, learning how to do some things a little bit better. And he did, for the most part in this fight, execute that very well. But I think he got caught in between the moment of what's new to him and trying to do it, and in a live action fight where somebody is really going at him with the ferocity of competition and competitiveness. And he got caught. and he got shook up really bad. Kudos to him for being able to show the consternation to get up and fight back through that. And then he got hurt a couple of more times between that first round before it ended and in the second round. And it just shows how much that young man has under the hood. Now, I still think that he's about 20 pounds overweight. But I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying, looking at what he has, the smaller era of heavyweights like the Ray Mercers and Mike Tysons and guys like that, that's what Andy really is. He's 250 pounds as a man who likes to eat what he eats and whatnot or whatever. But if he were to trim off that additional weight, he would be more of a monster than what he is. But let's get back into what the action was. I felt like once he was able to get his feet back under him, he fought very well. Damn if he does not have the fastest hands in the heavyweight division. And he throws great combinations. I mean, his follow-up punches to the initial shots that he lets off are very good. And he looks very good putting together multiple shots, such as 3, 4, maybe sometimes even 5 punch combinations. Because they run off so well, he's able to throw them with speed and precision. And a couple of times, I think it might have either been the third or fourth round, he hit Arreola with some left hooks that made Arreola realize, I got to watch this guy from beginning to end because he'll get me. And he fought like it. And where the judges had it so wide, I think one judge had it like 118 to 110 or something like that. It was not that wide a margin because the man was knocked down and shook up very badly in a couple of rounds. So it's like, what are these judges doing, man? I scored the fight finally 115 to 112, and it was simply because in the second half of the fight, the last round I gave Arreola was the 8th round. And from that point on, it seemed like Andy was controlling the fight to me. But it was still close where you could have given, Arreola rounds. But I don't think he swept the later rounds. I think that Andy did control those later rounds. But the fight was still closer than what the judges said. And once again, leaving a terrible taste in the mouth of a person that really likes to watch the sport and be competitive like this. Man, these judges need to get off scoring bouts like the other guy is not even in the fight. I mean, come on, that is just ridiculous. And every time we see a judge with that kind of scorecard, Reggie, and I know you were looking to hear that judge, but you said it was freezing up on you. It wasn't. But if we could get back to reviewing that at some point, we need to write that judge's name down as well, because that fight wasn't that distance. It wasn't that wide a margin for victory. This fight could have almost even been scored a draw. I don't think that Arreola did enough to Ruiz in the later rounds like he did early when they were fresh. But I also think that part of that was, he got that stinger or whatever with his left arm. I think what he might have even done is a hyperextension of his left arm. And sometimes when that happens, it'll take your focus away, and you'll find yourself kind of like, you're worried about your conditioning as far as how what shape your body is in, is whatever's hurt, and you kind of lose a little bit of your focus. And I believe that very well may have been what happened with Arreola at that point, because that was kind of like the point when he stopped really taking those rounds. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge super chat out there. We got Taylor Bell, our brother from the channel and members out there. He says, missed the Ruiz fight but caught the highlights. I can tell he used some combos from the training with the Canelo camp. A much needed camp change. Yeah, I agree with that, Taylor Bell, and thank you for your super chat donation. But it's more to it than just that. Simply, as I intimated earlier, the fact that he was coming out of a fresh camp, his first camp with Reynoso and everything. I would like to see Andy in his next fight because he's got this one under his belt. And making a change like that off the layoff he's had, going into a fight against a live opponent like a Arreola, that was a recipe for disaster. But Andy pulled through, and he came through victorious, and you have to take your hat off to him. Salute to Akando Sami Hassan out there as well, another new member to the channel. Appreciate you, and salute to you as well, brother. So Reggie, the points that I made about the change in his camp, what happened with Arreola's left shoulder when he may have thrown it out and everything. What are your thoughts when it come down to those particularities for this fight and how the fight shaped up?
Oh no, I got nothing else to add on that. I think Andy fought a great strategy, and what's being changed is being effective. I seen some kind of the little bit of ripples of that what we see with Canelo with the use of his punches, and I agree with you. Andy Ruiz does have the fastest hands for a heavyweight. He's faster than some of the smaller division cats. His combination work is a beautiful thing, and it works well when he's working off of the counter. But I seen exactly what Reynoso was implementing in that game plan. I see a lot of looks of Canelo, what Canelo does effective in the ring. I seen him working on some of that inside of this fight. Now he needs to go and get right back at it. He can't sit out of this. He can't sit out of this fight game for far too long. Otherwise, he gets where someone can open up early in the fight and press the gas on him and hurt him again. He's lucky it wasn't against a more aggressive, fresher, kind of prime age fighter that was in there with him, because they probably would have finished him. But that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and also again, like I said, coming into this fight, fresh, new camp, new trainer, a whole new outlook and everything. You're bound to have some wrinkles or whatever, but it was his resolve that pulled him through. I mean, I believe, let's say he and Reynoso had been working together for at least 2 to 3 fights, right? I don't believe he gets caught with that punch that put him down in the first round. I don't believe that happens. And shout out to Chris Arreola for getting his butt in prime shape for this fight, which you can really see how many corners he cut in his career earlier, because this was probably one of his best efforts. And the way that he looked, his condition was up. Even when the fight ended, it looked like he could have gone on further. But you have to also know that, like you said, he's 40 years old now, 40 plus, and the body breaks down. You know what I'm saying? And he should be angry at himself, if anything, because had he decided to take the type of focus that he took for Andy Ruiz, which also speaks, because they're very familiar with one another, it speaks to what he thought of Andy, as far as he didn't think like that of Kalnaki, you know what I mean? And Deontay Wilder and other fighters and fights that he's had in the past of his career. So it just goes to show you, it's like, man, you could have been in much better and stellar shape and possibly had become, before Andy, the first Mexican heavyweight champion. It's like, it really depends on how much a guy really wants something and how hard they're willing to work for it and go for it. Because I'll tell you, the way these two men fought tonight, half of the heavyweight division doesn't have the resolve that these two men showed in there with one another tonight. You could probably count on one hand how many heavyweights could, stand in with that type of resolve and effort and things like that. And there's not a lot, and you may not use all your fingers when counting on that one hand. So, but that's, those are my thoughts on this fight. Very good heavyweight fight. Salute to both men, and salute to Andy Ruiz Jr. for getting it together. Had he shown up in this type of condition with this type of focus against Anthony Joshua in their rematch, maybe Anthony Joshua would not be a two-time heavyweight champion. And that's saying a lot, because you saw this man tonight fight through. Just like when Joshua dropped him, he got back up and he fought and he persevered. That's 2 times that he's done that in a live action fight against a live action opponent, and I have to salute him 1000%. I said, and I eat my words, when we talked about him after he lost the fight to Joshua in Saudi, I said he won't come back to that level. I said he's too content. He's shown us that, his dreams came true and he was content with that. Well, maybe he heard my words. Maybe he heard the criticism. Maybe he heard a lot of the people feeling disgust toward him and everything, because people wanted to celebrate him. People wanted to give him accolades and salutes and salutations and whatnot. And he spurned that by the efforts that going into that rematch with Joshua. But he proved me wrong. I announced it here on the air that he did, and I can't wait to see him in there again with a top-rated fighter. So salute to Andy Ruiz Jr., a man, and I give people their credit when it's due, and that's what he showed us this evening. Reggie, the other fight on the card, dialing it going backwards, the Omar Figueroa and Abel Ramos fight. What were your thoughts on this? And dialing it back. And I don't know how much of the card you saw, because I remember you saying that you may be out. So if you called this one, I didn't see you call this one.
No, that one I was watching from the phone, man, and I didn't think it was going to go the way that it did like this, because usually I see Figueroa trying to battle his way back, even when watching him fight your Dennis Ugas and getting whooped on. In this fight, he didn't really have anything to keep Ramos up on him and off of him. And I think Ramos did the effective thing and ripping at that dude's body. He tore his body apart. And I think there may be something internally wrong with Figueroa. Watching him when he finally, called the fight to have the fight stop, spitting up the blood, the way he was doing it, he was taking some severe punishment to the body. And he didn't really do his style, man, leaves his body kind of open for a lot of punches, man, even leaving his head open for a lot of these punches. The angles he fights at, and Ramos took advantage of it. And it was nothing given back from Figueroa to keep Ramos up off of him. Ramos just had a field day going to the body and tearing up whatever the heck he tore up. That was a lot of blood coming up out the mouth. And he probably pooping blood too. But that's my thoughts. It's just one-sided whoop on by Ramos.
This guy, Figueroa, came out in this match here with the most ridiculous offensive game plan or whatever, that foolish movement that he was doing left and right and switching from southpaw to orthodox and all of that, putting his glove on the wrong side of the face and getting hit on the clear side of the face. It was ridiculous. If he trained that way his trainer and he should be put out back in the garbage dumpster. I have never seen a fighter go out there and look so inept. Okay, and even when he fought Ugas, he didn't look like that. But it's like that was totally, I don't know if it was initially started off to be like goofing around, because it looked like that might be what he was trying to do, is just give Ramos some weird looking looks. But he remained in that till Ramos got his timing down and just began to pick him apart. I would love to have seen the punch stats for Ramos's scored shots, because it had to be 50% or higher. He was just hitting the guy at will. Straight right hands, double right hands, left hooks, body shots. He was working him up and down and all over. And he should be spitting up blood. He should be in the hospital in ICU right now, hooked up to a machine or something, a ventilator, because he just took battering. You know what he looked like? You know the double end bag in the gym that the guys work on? The one that's got the attachment to the floor and to the ceiling? That's what he looked like. Bobbling around, just getting hit. Target practice. And they put this man out there to look like that and fight like that? Please, people, don't ever, if you're thinking about getting in the gym and being in the ring with someone, don't ever try that foolishness. Because an experienced fighter will knock your head off. And at some point, the coach in the corner and the trainer was supposed to tell him, put your damn hands up and cover your face and your chin and tuck your chin and stay in one position. Stay in either southpaw or stay in orthodox. But stop all of that foolishness, because you're going to get killed out there. And this is the kind of thing, I talk about it all the time. Who the hell is training these people? Huh? Because you're coming out there looking like that and you look like a fool. We had a fighter called Nicolino Loche that could get out there and he could move and make people miss and slip and bob and weave and everything. And he did it with precision. Punches would just miss by an inch or two and go sail over his shoulders and everything. But he was not being touched up by the opponent with over 50% of his shots landing. Okay? But that takes skill and guile. This man is probably, like you said, in the hospital tonight, Reggie, for stupidity. What in the hell were they thinking? And I know Ramos was like, at first, he looking at him like, what is, and then, like I said, 2-3 rounds, he got the timing down now, and it just became target practice. Fat, just hitting him wet wheel. And the guy, you saw his eye all swollen up like Quasimodo and everything. This is what happens when you go out there and you be bullshitting. This is boxing, man. People will knock you the hell out or put you in the hospital, or even worse still, put you in the grave. Huh? And you out there doing that stupid stuff. I've never seen anything like that. Never. Except for that one kid maybe who was dancing and everything on his way to the ring, and he was doing all these stupid moves and stuff, and then he got knocked out right away in the fight, and people made a meme out of him. And a little skinny kid too, and he was doing all these stupid dances and stuff, and he got in the ring trying to clown. I guess he thought he was trying to be like Prince Nassim or something, and he got knocked the hell out. And I feel passionate about that because I've worked with people in the gym. I would never, ever, if a guy came in there trying to do that, we'd throw him out in a heartbeat. Get the hell out of here. Huh? That's the kind of thing, like if you want to show a child something and you're doing it like the Three Stooges, right? That's the most improper thing you could do, is be showing a small child the Three Stooges. I got a relative, his siblings, that they were all watching Three Stooges. They was like 5 years old, whatever. And when Mo hit Larry in the head with the hammer, the little girl went and grabbed the hammer out of her daddy's toolbox and came and hit her brother in the head with the hammer, and they had to take his ass to the hospital. for foolishness. Somebody let them watch the Three Stooges, and now he in the hospital and he got a zipper in the top of his head. This is what I'm talking about. And people need to call it for what it is, just like I'm doing right now. Figueroa should never get back in the ring. Never. Go find something else to do. Huh? Go be a bricklayer or something. Don't get in the boxing ring. It ain't for you. Those are my thoughts on that, Reggie.
Man, I've been saying that for some time about Figueroa, is that I don't think he was built to be a boxer. He just didn't. To me, he didn't fit the mold. He didn't have the style for it. He did a lot of things that just didn't make sense. And I was like wondering, how is he? Because I think he was undefeated for a while. Like, how is he undefeated fighter? The way they were building him up, they were building him up to be kind of fooled by what he thought he was going to be, and then he ran into these tougher contests and getting the dog-ish beat out of him. I think at one point he was being trained by his sister and all this type of weak stuff coming in the sport. I just didn't like it. Even the other brothers the same way. The other brother fights with his face as well. He's kind of big for the division he's in, but he went into a war in his last fight. They both fight with a trash style. And that's probably because they've been learning how to get in shape from their sister and this and that. They girls is what they really are. The Figueroa style is trash. It's a wax style. And now they're starting to, they come up a level. And tonight this dude gets brutalized. And to take a beating like that to the body and the blood start coming out, that dude then open up some organs internally in this dude. And hopefully he go off and do whatever they was trying to build him up to. I think they're trying to build him into a model, the girl stuff the networks ran with this dude. I just never thought the Figueroas were going to build up to what I thought they was. Not to hate up on these dudes, because I don't like trying to say hateful things and writing people off, but I just saw it. I just saw it for what it was, and they weren't what they were being built up as.
Yeah. And shame on the gym that they train in and everything. Who would put somebody out there like that, man? I mean, I don't know anybody. Not the people I know. Okay? Not the people I know. That's utter foolishness. Buffoonery. That crap. We got salute to my man SB Stay Sharp out there in the chat. He's a coach. He got his own gym and everything, and he got his people. You could ask him to leave a comment on his thoughts of that ridiculous foolishness and see what he has to say. Okay, and I haven't talked to him, but he's out there in the chat right now. And please stay sharp. Leave a comment about what you thought when you saw that fool out there performing like that. And I'll leave the chat to read his comments and see what he has to say. But that was utter buffoonery. Never seen nothing like that before, man. Ridiculous. Let's go on back to the other fight before that, Reggie. We had Sebastian Fundora and Jorge Cota. Now, this fight was interesting with the Mutt and Jeff type deal because Fundora is that 6'6" super welterweight out there, Reggie. Skinny as a rail. And he's out there posing threats to the division because of his size and length. And that is going to cause a problem for certain people, because if you don't have skills and you don't know how to break a guy down, you're going to run into some trouble with him. He's obviously heavy-handed at that weight, and possibly just because of his height, his bones and his bone density is possibly making him as strong as, because he doesn't have much on his body. There's no body fat at all. He looks like he need a few meals in him, but he's very gangly. And in this fight, Jorge Cota did the right thing. He took the fight to the son of a gun, and he tried to get as close as he could to get his pound of flesh in. But what he found out was that Fundora is very adept at in-close fighting. He likes contact, but those kind of fighters usually have shorter careers, and he's fighting men on the come up now, but he ain't fighting the guys at the top. And you can't go in there against guys at the top trying to do what you're doing against some of these other fighters and less experienced and lower status fighters. But what I loved about Cota was he was answering everything that Fundora was doing to him, and though fighting at a size, height, and reach advantage, he was doing some good things. And at the time of the stoppage, the intervention of the ref, I felt that more than being hurt, he had gotten staggered a little bit, but he was countering every time Fundora do something. He was doing something back. In fights like that, I like to see them go to their completion. Somebody is going to wear out or wear down, or they're going to continue that to the final bell. And I think the referee in this case jumped the gun a little bit, especially when I saw Cota jump up on the ropes and throw his hands up in the air in celebration after, the referee has stepped in and, waved the fight off and everything. He was definitely clear-headed, and he definitely looked like he wanted to continue. So that's how I saw that. And I really feel like I would have liked to see that. I knock Cota out. That's what I wanted to see. I didn't want to see no help from the ref or whatever, because it reminded me a little bit of that Carlos Takam fight against Anthony Joshua. Takam early on got hurt and staggered, but he weathered it, and then he started fighting back. And then in the later rounds, as Joshua was starting to get a bit winded, he started doing some good things against Joshua, and the ref steps in and stops the fight when he could have stopped it earlier when Takam was in worse condition. And I was like, man, see, this is that kind of thing. And I wrote that in KQKC's chat. I said, this guy don't need the referee's help. Let the fight go to his completion. If he's going to be knocked out, let him be knocked out. But he's fighting like a warrior. This is for an elimination. So there was something on the line. It was a 12-round match. Who says that the kid don't get, winded and then get caught with something himself? But when you do kind of things like this and the ref steps in, it makes it look like you're trying to help that prospect along. And I don't like that. Let it run to its completion. Did you see this one, Reggie? Did you watch this one on your phone?
Yeah, I watched this one, man, and I'm not gonna lie, OG. I was worried for Cota because I've seen Cota knocked out in so many fights. I was hoping that this ref would have stepped in there and stopped that fight. I mean, Cota, to me, it's like Cota's, man, just as he steps up in fights, man, he's in here getting whooped on by a lot of these guys, and he's been knocked out pretty bad. Well, knocked out bad against Trollo. Seen him hurt a couple of times in fights, and also seen him, kind of toyed with when he fought Erickson Lubin, where Erickson Lubin does a little squat, dips down, jumps up, and knocks the guy out. Doing that to Cota, and Cota, I don't know, Cota being hurt, he will fight his way through, but I think it's dangerous for Cota in these situations to try to fight his way through. And it's funny, he's coming off and it's the other thing. I don't see how these people get put in these eliminator positions and stuff. I think he ended up fighting Lamanna to get in this position, and then watching Lamanna getting knocked out by what's his name tonight, by Lara. But Cota was hurt severely. He's trying to fight his way through. He's going to always fight his way through because he is a warrior. He has a lot of heart. He seems to not mind getting knocked out. But I thought it was the way that he was wobbling. He was hurt. He was just wobbling real bad. And I thought it was just going to be bad because this dude Verduna is becoming stronger. He's getting way, way stronger from where I seen where he came from. He's getting a whole lot stronger. And he's also a tall dude who you expect to fight on the outside. But I don't know if he's a tall dude that just went through one of these kind of growth spurts or something, because he's used to fighting like a shorter person. He likes fighting on the inside. He's strong enough to push folks around, and he's throwing some big shots because he's busting people open. The way he whooped on Gallimore shows that he has something there. And I want to see where he goes. I want to see as he moves up, what does he do? And seeing him doing what he did to Cota, who was a opponent that all the top junior middleweights have faced. Charlo faced him, Rosario, Lubin faced him. So this guy's made it through the test against Cota. So let's see where Fortuna goes from here. He's getting a lot of fights. He's being super, super active. I can't tell you how many times I have seen Fortuna fight within the last 12 months. He's being super, super busy, and hey, give him his shot if that's where he's at pretty soon. And I think it's no telling where he is, but the way I watched him whip on Gallimore shows that he's a very strong dude. And then what he did in the Cota and even the fight before that, I want to see where he goes. Is he ready for a Charlo? We won't know until he gets in there. Put him in there with Tony Harrison. Put him in there with somebody who's a former champ. Or put him in there with the champions after they fight for all these titles and see where Fortuna is. But that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'll say one thing, though. Those guys that you mentioned, those names that you ran off, and the one that you didn't mention, guys like Banana, yeah, put him in there with those guys who can crack and see what happens to him. Because he's there to be hit. He don't mind defense. He always thinking about putting his hands on the other guy. But he don't keep his hands at home to protect himself at all. He's wide open. And when you're wide open, somebody going to come and slam the door shut on you. That's my last comment on that one. So, but yeah, that it is what it is. Now, that Jesus Ramos, is that the brother, the younger brother of Abel Ramos, he fought Javier Molina tonight in the opening bout there, and he looked like he's gotten stronger. And I remember when he fought on I guess it was the Luis Ortiz and Deontay Wilder card, I think it was, when I first saw him. He's looking like a stronger competitor there, Reggie, and being in that welterweight division, I mean, my goodness, there's some talent down there. What were your thoughts on he?
Yeah, this is the nephew of Ramos. This is Ramos' nephew.
Okay, nephew.
Yeah, this one I was watching part of it. My signal went out because I was up in that place at Circus, and I ended up losing the signal, so I didn't even get to catch all that fight.
Okay, well, he definitely went on to I think I had it down as what did I have it down? Because I got so many fights from tonight, man. My goodness, we had a lot of fights, but he had a unanimous decision. But he beat up on Molina pretty good, and he looks very strong. He's strong with both hands. His conditioning looks good. Wow. He may catch up to the other guys in the division very quickly. I do believe there's going to be some shaking out pretty soon, and that's not a bad thing, because it's time for people to start, taking that piss or getting off the pot, man. It's like you're seeing so many of these guys now, the fact that they weren't fighting, not, matching up with one another as they should be. Other guys are getting an opportunity to develop, and they're catching up. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing, because these guys who don't really mean well in the sport, like a Keith Thurman or whatever, Keith ain't trying to fight nobody. He's calling names and stuff, but he ain't doing nothing. Well, these young guys are going to come and sweep you right to the side, because the fact that you're not active, you're building up more and more ring rust and everything, and these guys are young and they're hungry and they're spirited. Hey, man, they're going to eat you up like popcorn, and that's good, because we'll see the process of elimination. And don't be surprised, Reggie, if you see some of those names that's at the top of the division call themselves running, right? Running away from the division by moving up, as they say. Well, you can move on up, but you got that Fundora guy up there too. So it's like, move on up, if you will. Let's see what happens to you. What are your thoughts about that, Reggie? When you talk about these guys threatening to move up because they want to run away from the kitchen getting hot where they are.
I think that's whack, but they could be making the wrong moves as well. But I think it's whack, man, for folks to run out of divisions to avoiding competition, and then they also think it because it cushions if they suffer a loss, that people don't look at it as being an embarrassment or something that really kind of pushes them back, because they're like, oh, well, he took a risk and he dared to be great and he lost it. Well, he was daring to be great because he was running from some situation. And to me, it's whack, man. And I think it's whack when people don't fight. You know, they don't go through proving themselves with all the top that is in the division, and you know, at least getting a match with one of these, with each and every one of these dudes who fans, anyone with a boxing mind or a sense of what is what in this game, seeing them get in the fight, and even these fighters knowing who is who and what is what. Just like we seeing Tank Davis moving all around, goddamn, the division he's supposed to be in. As good as he is as a fighter, he's doing sucker stuff, all that bouncing around. He doing hopscotch over the 135 division. That's trash. Seeing the same thing down there at 120. Can I say 126? Yeah, I think the folks is doing that at 126, avoiding cats, bouncing around. You having great fighters having to move out the division because people don't want to fight each other. Seeing that same kind of sucker stuff, man.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's really bad. But it's time for the suckers to take a licking. and I'm hoping and praying that the walls close in on all of them. Speaking of taking a licking and suckers, Reggie, how many people were suckers for this event right here, man, where we saw the return of Arislandi Lara and this kid Lamanna, man. Thomas Lamanna was not prepared for a fight tonight. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know what he was thinking. But he got slept in a manner of which that he made Arislandi Lara look like he was Charlo or somebody, you know, Triple G or whatever. He just went in there and he laid it on that guy's chin, Reggie. And the dude was as stiff as a board, man. You could have ironed a suit on his back, on his chest or whatever, the way he laid him out so stiffly. It was ridiculous, man. And that was utter inexperience and everything. It's just like he got hit. He was getting hit with the straight left so easily that Lara decided to throw it a different way, and it connected and knocked the dude out. The ones that were coming straight down the middle were like poof, poof. Then he said, let me try it around and hook it around. And it went whack and the dude was out. First round, man, 1 minute and 20 or 30 seconds into the first round. It was ridiculous. Did you see that?
Yeah, I think Lamanna was able to pinch Lord. That's about all he got. It was a pinch.
Oh man, it was it looked really bad, Reggie. I mean, and the kid, you know, they were working on him. It looked like they were trying to resuscitate him or whatever and bring him back to his senses, but the best thing they could did for him was just take him and put him in traction or something and hook him up to the machines too with the other guy, because I don't know, man. When I watch these fights and I see that kind of thing happen, and it happens so early like that, it lets you know how terribly mismatched these opponents are with their victors. And earlier in that fight before that, that kid Isaac Alzacar was taking on Eduardo Ramirez, and Ramirez slept that dude with a left hook in the first round. Just kind of, I mean in the third round, but it just kind of like boom, you know, right off the chin, and the dude was out of there. I mean, when you start seeing stuff like that, terrible matchmaking. Guys are in there grossly overmatched, man. That's what that is, no doubt.
And, and I want to just say this about the Lara versus Lamanna fight, and what's so trash about when you're looking at the sport of boxing is the fact that Lamanna should have never been put in position to even fight. And then knowing this for a vacant title, how the heck is Lamanna getting a fight being what he done in his career? Because I think all they say is you got to defend yourself and have a win or so. As he moved his fights over to Mexico. He started fighting in Mexico to kind of gather up a few wins after he was beating his. He was stopped by Cota. He was beat by some other dude. Following that, then he goes over to Mexico to try to look good, and then somehow a vacant title fight falls into his lap against a former champion, highly skilled, high level, experience. Just a fighter with experience like Lara. Someone's been in against some of the best in the game at this division. And so they throw Lamanna in here. This is a thing where the people who hold over Lamanna's career didn't care about him. They just threw him in there into the lion's den, and he got smoked in this fight. Knowing if George Cota's knocking you out, what the heck you think Lara's going to do? What the heck you think you're going to do in here against Lara? This kid wasn't experienced enough to be in here. And all Lamanna is, because I know he was coming out of some of the black gyms and hanging around some of the black fighters, cool with some of them. They start hyping and building them up. But he's lacking in many areas in the game, and it showed in this fight. And why was this for a title? This is why champions in this era in boxing don't mean crap. Just fight the top guys. Nobody cares about these trash belts because there's too many people becoming champions over vacancies and mismatches being set up in these vacant title matches. And I thought it was trash that Lamanna was even being put in front of a Lara with the level of experience he has. He just wasn't equipped. And if you're taking your fights over to Mexico, you're doing what people who just turned professional are doing. You're going over there to try to rack up some wins against people who work secondary jobs, and boxing is just another source of hustle income, and it's not something they take serious. So you're just going over there to look a certain way. But that's whack about this side of the game, that they allow that. The fact that matchmaking is allowed in the sport, and the fact that some promoters with big names can just pull anybody out the hat to fall into fighting someone who's been boosted up because they have better representation to go fight for a title to look good and smoke someone. But that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, man. How about we move it right along to the earlier card, where the main event saw Joseph Parker taking on Derek Chisora. And this particular fight, Reggie, had the markings of a opportunity for someone to be elevated and go on up to a status of being able to challenge for one of those belts that's available. And it now, of course, the clear decision came down, and they awarded Parker the victory. But I didn't see it that way. I saw this fight, Reggie, as a battle that saw Chisora force the action, impose his will on Parker, and make Parker look every bit like a guy who doesn't belong up there in the division. As far as that consideration that he's been given. He doesn't, to me, Joseph Parker doesn't exemplify a contender. He's like a pretender. He's a guy that comes along. It looks like he's snatching paydays, but he's not putting forth any type of effort to look like someone who's trying to make his mark in the division. And again, you hear me say it all the time. This is a hurt business. You can get your head knocked off out there and be in a bad situation. Chisora was in much better shape than he's been in, even in the Usyk fight. I had noted in the chat as I'm watching the fight, he didn't come in there with any love handles. His stomach was tight. he was breathing very hard because he was fighting hard. He doesn't know how to adjust the levels. It's like I had talked about this during the bout. I was saying that he should take a round or two off by just utilizing the jab. Just jab. Don't matter what Parker does. Block, defend, and just shoot a jab. Shoot a jab. You can rest with the jab. You know what I mean? And it's something that, but he was really breathing heavily in the corners because his output was like on 10. He was trying to knock out with every shot. He was fighting hard. He was punching hard. And I think that's why you also had Parker responding the way he did. He wasn't responding in a very positive manner. He was like wiltering. And had Chisora had more ability, he could get Parker out of there. Now you can see why Parker chose to fight AJ instead of Deontay Wilder, because AJ at the time that they fought was kind of young and on the come up. It wasn't like as threatening. Even though he's youthful, he's big, he's strong, he doesn't have that experience, and he doesn't have what seems to be that killer, I'm gonna take you out of there type disposition like Wilder had at that time. And yeah, he looked at Wilder, but he was like, no, I think I'll go over here and sell my belt over here, not over there. Because this guy, not only will he take my belt, but he may take my money too. You know what I'm saying? And it looked really bad. But Chisora, in my eyes, won that fight. I scored the fight. I looked at it, the rounds I had it 6-4 for I had it 6-4 for Chisora, and it just, to me, it didn't look like a solid effort by Parker. And in some of the rounds, Parker looked like he was just doing enough to keep Chisora at bay a little bit, but not trying to beat him up. And in that first round, when Chisora hit him with that overhand right and Parker went down, that lackadaisical approach to the round and everything, how many people have watched Chisora and watched how he go after people? And this guy comes out there like he's taking a walk in the park, ho-de-do-de-do, and he bam, hit on the head, and he's on the canvas within the first minute of the fight. He should have been KO'd in the first round. If that was someone like Mike Tyson or something, it would have been a first round KO. Because Chisora doesn't do well with, the following up and things of that nature. He came out and clubbed that fool on top of the head, and he went down from the first solid shot he got hit with. He wasn't ready. And there was no reason that he should have got that decision. Before I ask you, Reggie, I just want to take a quick moment and acknowledge one of the super chats we got out there. We got my man IGM Tim out there with the super chat donation. He sent one for us, and I was talking a bit, and it was a couple minutes ago, but I want to acknowledge it. Thank you, IGM Tim, for your donation to the channel. We appreciate you, bro, and salute to you. But yeah, Reggie, go ahead and give me your thoughts on this ridiculous mismatch of a fight here, Chisora and Parker.
Man, I thought Parker must be a 10th degree grappling champion, because that's all he did in this fight. He held, he grappled, he pressed against the ropes, and that's really all he did. He didn't let off too many punches. He held back a lot of punches. He was Adrian Broner mixed with a grapple champion, is really what he was, because he showed him coming here in the box. And even in the most that he really did was he didn't do any body work. He just jabbed to the head, jabbing off the back foot. Anytime he loaded up to throw a punch, I don't even think he landed any big hooks because he missed a lot of them. He missed a lot of punches. He let Chisora show some head movement to avoid punches. And that also factor into Chisora tiring out and winding out. And also the thing, like you were saying, he needed to take rounds off. Chisora doesn't know how to take rounds off when he could have. He had so many rounds on my card in the bank. He could have, like you said, took 1 or 2 rounds off and still been ahead. And even taking those rounds off, and Parker still probably wouldn't even press the action. He probably wouldn't brought nothing at him. And the fact that Parker allowed a tired Chisora to walk him down the whole fight, come right up after him, crack him with big punches, it just showed how wacky it was. I thought Parker was going to stop Chisora in the 7th round. And by round 4, I switched. I was like, man, the hell with Parker. I know Parker was this dang trash. He fought whack as hell. And he didn't win that fight. And that was highly upsetting, watching judges create scorecards like that. And also seeing 115, 113 scorecards when there's a knockdown in the fight it seems impossible to me. That seems real impossible to me. I don't understand how the judges can come with that. Even the judge who gave the fight over to Derek Chisora that math doesn't add up properly with a knockdown in the fight. But he didn't do anything. He grappled the whole fight. I don't know if he brought an MMA fighter in training camp because he's showing the heck didn't spar with any boxers. And then also watching
it does compute, Reggie, if the fighter gets up and win the majority of the rest of the rounds. But Parker didn't hardly win any rounds. I told you,
especially not that first round.
Yeah, I give him 3 rounds at tops. But it's like salute to Watcher out there in the chat. Watcher says that it's like knockdowns mean nothing these days. It's true, Watcher. What you're saying is 1,000% true, because even in, the fight where we watched with Ruiz and Arreola, it's like they would score the fight as if the knockdown didn't take place, as if the other guy didn't really lose a round decisively. I'm talking about getting battered, and Ruiz was battered in the 2nd round. He didn't go down, but he was battered, and he went down in the 1st round. I mean, come on. I laugh sometimes, but sometimes I'm very serious when you're talking about these fighters. And how many times do I have to say it? When you give a great effort, wholehearted effort, and they don't award you your victories, that's dehumanizing. That takes a lot out of you. That makes you hate the sport. We talk about how fighters used to show up at other fighters' fights and, support the sport and things like that. You don't see that today because people realize how garbage boxing is in the can, especially with these judges, man. I mean, what are they doing? They go all the way in the opposite direction. You got a fight here with the guy who's done the most. He's put the most effort in. He's got knockdowns. He's battering the other guy. The other guy is just basically trying to survive. And then you give it to him, the surviving guy. You know what that reminds me of, Reggie? That somehow our society has matriculated itself over into the sport of boxing, whereas like when you talk about school, you have contests and things like that, and they don't want to declare someone a winner. They want to make everybody who participated a part of the process, so everybody gets an award or some shit. Huh? And I know I'm a little potty mouth this evening, but it's because of how I'm feeling about this, because it's ridiculous. It's almost like if you don't knock somebody unconscious and get disqualified for it, don't forget that part. It's like you don't shoe in a victory. Even if you outbox the hell out of them. Even if you're out there, you sticking, you moving, you landing the majority of the shots, the punch stats are in your favor, and you think you secure the rounds, and then a judge comes out and pull a 118 to 110 on you for the other guy. What fight was he watching, man? And in this fight, and we've seen Derek Chisora lose, right? We've seen it. He did not lose tonight. He did not lose. He won. And it's like, my goodness, where do they dig that out of their butt from? It's like you just cringe. The decisions come down and you just, oh, here we go, you know? And it makes me sick to my stomach that a fighter can go out there. Remember, the Rosado-Jacobs fight. I talked about this then. Excuse me. Danny Jacobs did not beat Rosado in that fight. He didn't. He was at one point the named fighter, but not in that fight. Not after having dropped fights to Canelo and to Triple G and really hadn't fared well. And you go out there and they were banking on Rosado cutting and possibly stopping him on cuts. This man even threw a blow at him like he was trying to cut his face around where his scar tissue was. I noticed it right when it happened, but it never happened. And he ended up having to fight, and he wasn't prepared to fight, although Rosado was prepared to box. They didn't see that coming. And they just awarded Danny the fight as if he had beat this man down. I'm like, show me where he won decisive rounds. Seriously. Same thing here. Where did Joseph Parker, after getting knocked down in the first round, clubbed on top of the head, where did he win this fight, Reggie?
Nowhere. He wanted Eddie Hearn or somebody slip one of these judges or two of these judges some paper. That's where this one comes from. And the thing that bugs me out the most is the fact that what we don't see with the preparation that goes into this sport, and even for these fighters to get in shape. We already know how hard it is for some of us to lose weight, to even put in the work. And these dudes having to put in the work to get themselves into a certain level of conditioning, to be able to go round after round, 3 minutes per round, to staying in shape, and then to watch a judge not to show any level of respect, honesty, and holding a high level of integrity when judging these fights properly. And are they even paying attention? Because I think I seen one fight not too long ago where they show a referee sitting there looking at his phone, not even paying attention. I don't think a lot of these referees are paying attention to these fights because they already have it figured in their mind what they're doing round by round. And it's disheartening for a lot of these fighters that you finally put in some work, getting yourself in a proper shape, only to watch these judges take it away because of the Parker being kind of the more, promoter associated fighter, to have this fight stolen away from him. And I think that's crap for these dudes to sacrifice being, and especially in this COVID situation, having to be separated from people, trying to get into work, doing the miles of running. Running is hard thing for a lot of people, especially when you're 200 and something pounds. You getting out here putting in road work, waking up in the morning, getting in sparring, working the bag, shadow boxing, doing all this other physical fitness type training day after day to watch some old scumbags sit on the side of the dang ring to cheat you, because there's probably other underlying corrupted stuff going into sports to cheat you out of a fight that everybody's watching this crap. So how are you pulling this stuff off? And this is where stricter measures have to take place within the sport. And you can't ask for the sanctioning bodies to do it because they allow crappy stuff to go on. Like Lamanna's in them fighting for vacant titles when they ain't deserving of it, and taking the cheaper routes to try to get themselves in a position to follow within the articles of these sanctioning bodies' trash rules for putting yourself in contention for stuff. It's just the trash thing goes on. I like boxing. I don't like these judges. I don't like referees, and I'm no fan of no one fighter. But it's crappy when fighters get cheated like this.
Very much so, Reggie. It burns me every single time. And I feel the same for each fighter that's on the losing end of these type of decisions, because I know I'm very on the level with fighters. And when they deserve victories, I speak on it. When I sit there and I take the time out to score fights myself, even when rounds are very close, I try to force myself to pick a winner in a round. And in some way, it could be for either guy. And if I pick the guy that the judge didn't pick, so be it. But when I see these cards and see those huge discrepancies, and you look at it and it's for a guy who did not win, I mean, I am just totally beside myself when I see that happening. And it is really, really bad for the sport of boxing. Imagine other one-on-one sports where the winner is not clear cut, where they just, we give it to the other guy because we just like him more, or he's associated with the promoter or the organizer of the event, whatever. It's like, that is so unfair. Why are you even having contests then? If you're going to do that, why are you even having this? Why are we having it? Seriously. If you're going to do that and just totally disregard the other person as if they didn't exist or whatever, why are we going through this process? It really stinks. Watcher said out there, he said, did you see Parker's trainer say that Chisora won? I didn't see that part because I was, already had moved on in disgust. And Donna Blanco says, Tony Harrison a few weeks ago did not deserve that win. I felt the same way about that. Some people was like, it was just a bad outing for Tony Harrison. No, the other guy was in the fight and won rounds. And if you give it to him, I wouldn't be angry. But when I saw the scorecards and how they managed to fix it in favor of Tony Harrison, I was really pissed off then. Because if you want to use the crutch that his dad passed away and this and that or whatever, right? Okay, what's the next time excuse? Because we see this stuff all the time. It's ridiculous. Moving forward.
Right.
Oh, you had something else on it, Reg?
Yeah, where they talking about Tony Harrison dad dying, Buster Douglas' mom died in the biggest fight of his life.
Right. And he went on through with the fight and he won. But moving forward in a sense in the conversation, but backwards on the card, we had Katie Taylor taking on Natasha Jonas, man, in a tremendous 135-pounder fight that saw these two ladies who had experience against one another in the Olympics, in the amateurs. They were out here again testing their mettle against one another. Did you get a chance to see this one, Reggie?
Yeah, I was catching this one in spurts, and I thought it was a real good fight, closely contested. I wish the lady had a little bit more to bring to it, but Katie Taylor is a tough young woman, and Jonas brought it tonight. She tried to give it her all to try to win that title off of Taylor, but Taylor showed why she's a champion. It was a very, very tough fight from what I was seeing.
Yeah, and it was actually a very good contrast of styles because early on, you could see that Jonas was trying to catch Katie, but it was actually the wrong strategy. I'm going to say this about Katie Taylor. I had adhered to this in one of our other shows where we talked about one of her bouts. I think it was against Persoon. The woman leads with her head with intent. It's malicious intent. It's part of her early strategy to bust women up with her head. It's a skill that is taught in the gym, Reggie. And boy, did she initiate it early on with Jonas. She was trying to bust her up or cause a cut or cause some swelling around the eye socket or whatever, because that was going to allow her to have an advantage. But it didn't happen. And so she resorted after that because the ref had intervened and started talking about their headbutts and everything, and he was going to start taking points and whatever. And for whatever reason, you could see that Katie she believed in that ref, and so she kind of backed off of that a little bit. But what she started doing was throwing those fast amateur-like combos, which are really not scoring shots in the pros, especially if a professional fighter has her guard up and is blocking and you're hitting the gloves, you're not hitting her face. And she started banging Katie to the body. And Jonas's body punching and body work was solid as can be. She just wasn't doing it enough. And she didn't use her jab enough, but her hook was really strong as well, because when she hooked at Katie, it was knocking her off balance. So it's like, I think that the first half of the fight, she should have been in there digging to the body. And she had enough of a reach that she didn't have to get in close with headbutting to do so. But it was still a highly contested fight at the top of the sport for the ladies division. And I like the action. I wish that Jonas come back and, step her game up a little bit more tactical wise, but she's a good fighter. And you could see why people were looking forward to this fight. But Katie Taylor is not all of that, man. She is not. But she is definitely a person that is versed in the headbutts. Because if you remember her fight with Pursoon was whooping her behind. But man, Pursoon looked like Frankenstein's monster after the fight was over, because she had all those bumps and around her eyes and everything. And her face was all marked up and swollen and almost eyes shut from that. But she was putting that licking on Katie Taylor. But this is one of those situations where, again, when you understand that someone is versed in that, there are some subtle things you could do. I have this tactics and strategies for them, and they'll never do that to you again in any round after you implement something against it. But that's a learned thing, Reggie. And there are more than a few fighters from the UK who utilize that. Not saying it's only the UK, but I see quite a few of them doing it. Over here, not so many, because people know what to do to counter that. So you got to come up with something a little bit different. But what were your thoughts again? Let's talk about this a little more on the battle.
Yeah. Well, no, on this one, I said I kept catching it in spurts, but I agree with you talking about her leading with her head. And it's possibly something that's patterned in what she's doing inside of that gym. But hopefully she can give this girl can get herself another rematch against Katie Taylor. And she'll learn to come in with a better strategy rather than trying to be a counterpuncher and sitting back. And she'll also know what else she needs to implement within her camp, so that way she can come off with the ability to sustain herself at a higher volume for these 2-minute rounds. I think it was a great experience for her. She's been coming up short in a few tough fights. She's been cheated in one. But hopefully she can come in here against Katie Taylor and, avenge this loss. If Katie Taylor's willing to give her another rematch, who knows if Katie Taylor's willing to do that in a fight with a woman was such a tough opponent for her. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, and salute to big homie Coop out there in the chat. He says Taylor looked drained at the post-fight press pictures. Listen, she was drained from them body shots that Jonas put on her. This is why I say that Jonas didn't realize. It's funny. We could talk about this till the cows come home. It's always talked about, don't forget to get that body work in. But some fighters just don't believe in doing it. Like they know it, right? They hear it, it's preached and everything, but they don't implement it. And I'm telling you, when you stick to it, when you get that, and she had Katie gasping from hitting. She had this uppercut to the belly that she was doing. A couple of times she did it in a row, like pop, pop, both hands. And then there were other times when she would just catch her with uppercuts and whatnot. And I'm like, that's good work. But she didn't stick to it Because when you're doing that early in the fight, it saps the fighter's legs late in the fight. And this fight went the distance. But Katie looked like she looked because of the work that Jonas was putting in down low. See, Katie, that whole thing about bumping people with the head and all that, when those women finish a fight and she gets to the scorecards and they give her the victory, it looks like she beat the woman to death, right? But it's not her punches doing that. If it was her punches doing that, why ain't she got more TKOs, knockouts? It's her headbutts. That's what's doing it. And she don't hit hard enough to have glove tampering circumstances, even if she's hitting with her knuckles. It's her headbutts, bro. That's what she's doing. She's learned that art of being able to get in there and hit you with her head and hit you with a punch at the same time. There's not a lot of fighters that have done that, and it happens. But this is something, again, and whoever fights her going forward in the future, they should talk about it at the press conference. They should talk about it before you go to the ring and you're talking with those referees and say, hey, we want the headbutts to stop. We want to, or we're going to do something. We're going to respond. Okay? And we're going to just have a dirty fight and somebody going to be disqualified. You think the referee want to hear that? So it's like you have to do what you got to do. IGM Tim is asking, so y'all saying that the chick led with her head? She leads with her head all the time, early in the fights, IGM Tim. Early. Because that's what sets up her, that's like part of her game plan. And if you understand what I'm saying, you get hit early in a fight. Sometimes a clash of heads early in a fight causes a concussion. And a person is cloudy from that point on. It's not usually the person who initiates it, it's the person on the receiving end. Because you're not expecting the impact. It's just like taking a punch. If you see the punch coming, you can take it better than when you don't see it. Because when you don't see it, you're blindsided and it has a damaging effect. But the same with the headbutt. It's like if you're in a fight with somebody and they headbutt you, you're going to be like, what the hell? You know, it's like, because you weren't expecting it. But if you're the one doing the headbutt, you've already braced yourself for the impact of how hard you're doing it. It becomes a simple thought of, the process in battle. But people don't understand this. And you do that and you realize what's going on and what someone's doing, you learn how to defend it. And I'm just surprised that nobody has really pointed that out about Katie Taylor prior to now and some other professional fighters that are over there. It happens. I want to say salute to my man IGM Tim again out there, in this super chat. Thank you for your donation to the channel again, brother. Appreciate it. Yeah. You got anything else, Reggie, on that?
No, that was it on that.
Okay. Salute to KQKC Boxing out there. He says, salute my brother Stormy B, man. Keep up the grind. Yes, sir, man. Yes, sir. We got it from here, KQ. Good job on what you were doing earlier, brother. Yeah, so even dialing it back a little more, Reggie, we got Campbell Hatton. Like Campbell Soup Hatton. Ricky Hatton's son. He fought tonight. He took on Dunn and in a 4-rounder. And man, this kid doesn't he doesn't have a bit of boxing skill in there, Reggie. He's just trying to jump on a guy and move his hands and everything, but a lot like his dad. But I saw him and I was not impressed at all. He should not be on TV. I know he's on there because he's Ricky Hatton's son, but he's in 4-rounders and he looks all the way like a guy that, needs a whole lot of work. So he should be on the card deep, buried back when the lights ain't on, and the crowd ain't in the stadium and stuff like that. That's my thoughts about him. I don't know if you saw him, but it was not impressive at all. Not impressive at all.
No, I missed that one.
Well, be glad, cause you didn't miss anything. It's like, just put it like that, bro. That kid, if I never see him fight again, I wouldn't be disappointed. I mean, seriously. And I'm not an advocate of just watching guys' sons and whatnot, because there's so much other good boxing out there that you could check out. But there was a fight that was more competitive on this undercard, and I wish that I could have been in this gentleman's corner, Reggie, and that was when Bivol took on Richards. Now that fight right there, Craig Richardson or Richards taking on Dimitri Bivol. This was a good fight. Craig came into the bout, I think he had one loss and one draw on his record, but he boxed like a seasoned guy. He seems to have, and they did say this a couple of times throughout the call of the fight, they said that he had power and pop on both hands. He fought like it, and Bivol responded like it, because he never went for broke against this kid, and the kid kept him at bay. I think he was supposed to shoot that right hand a little bit more earlier in the fight, and also get those body shots in there against Bivol earlier. But he definitely had Bivol's respect. I liked how he was jabbing. He kept him at bay with that jab. And a couple of times when Bivol ran in there to try to do something and he got hit with something, it made him rethink life. And I love that. It's just that Richards, Craig, he fought like a guy who was just happy to be at the dance, but he didn't fight like the guy who wanted to turn the party out, turn up, so to speak, at the dance. And I don't know when these young men are going to start having that type of disposition, because Bivol is the champ, and you got to whoop the champ's butt. You got to knock him down. You got to dog him. You got to beat him up. But if you saw Bivol's face after that fight, Reggie, it was damaged, and Richard's face was not damaged at all. So what were your thoughts on this one?
This was a good fight, man. And I thought Richardson, if you would have had, it was almost, matter of fact, Richardson was almost how we seen with Danny Jacobs in the fights against Golovkin, where he was able to match him. He kind of didn't believe in himself until the fight started to get heated. I thought in the first 2 or 3 rounds, he looked a little tentative. Think they wanted him to work more off his jab, him having that height advantage. And, Bivol was trying to come at him, throwing in some combinations, trying to hit him with big shots. Once he realized he could take these shots from Bivol, start using his jab effectively, he began to stand there and fight. And then he had moments where he exchanged with Bivol, and it caused Bivol to try to make an adjustment. Bivol a little bit hesitant on these exchanges. I don't guess Bivol was feeling some of the crack from this guy and probably having to think about, let me not get caught with something. But then the guy started utilizing that jab, and then he started bringing the fight to Bivol, start walking Bivol back, touching Bivol down to the body. He was placing nice shots in there on Bivol, but I just think he came on a little bit too late, and that ended up what end up keeping Bivol successful in this fight. But I think this guy learned a lot from this fight. And Bivol, in my opinion, Bivol, to me, he's always been kind of small for that division. And I think he's going to face a really, really tough bout going in here against Beterbiev. Maybe have some successes. Joe Smith can beat Beterbiev, but I think even Joe Smith would give Bivol some issues, because I think he's a little bit too high in the division he's fighting in, but he has a lot of heart. Can't take that away from Bivol. But I thought Richardson did a tremendous job in this fight. I just think he came off a little bit too late, and he fought kind of how Danny Jacobs fought against Triple G, where he could have gave more if he would have just stepped on the gas against an opponent that wasn't going to hurt him, wasn't going to get him up out of there. But he started bringing a better fight to him later down the stretch. But that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I also felt like, Richards is the kind of fighter, Reggie, I'm just going to say it plainly. I was thinking of this as I was watching the bout. I would like to see him come over here and get some of that Western coaching, man, because I think he's got it. I really do. I was impressed with him. There were moments in this fight with Bivol that he was, stalking Bivol, taking the fight to him and looking very, like in charge. But the experience wasn't there. There was something a little bit lacking in his experience. And that's okay. But this is a fight that he could take and learn from and, going forward. And I would like to see something happen as far as that for him. But definitely the kid has something. I don't think he's just, a guy to dismiss in the division. I like what he had to bring. I saw some very, very positive things in there. But again, when we get to talking about these fighters, it's important that you know that where they are. Bivol hit him on the chin several times, and the kid didn't even buckle. He stumbled back like, yeah, I got hit solidly, but he never looked like, oh, he hit me. I'm hurt, I'm wobbled, and this and that. He never looked like that. And remember, a lot of guys have checked out against Bivol just because he's strong. This kid didn't do that, Reggie. He fought back. So I would like to see someone very good, hey, what's his name? I'm trying to think of it. Charlo's trainer.
James. Derek James.
Derek James. There you go. Derek James. I'd like to see Derek James get a hold of his kid like that and work with him because, he's showing himself to have a stable of capable guys, and having a fighter like that, wow. Because you're talking about a whole different division, light heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? So I would love to see that. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I just think you talking about for Bivol, or are you talking about for Richards?
For Richards.
For Richards, I don't know. I don't know what would he change in Richards' style. I think Richards just a good off that jab. I can't blame nothing on that trainer of Richards. I just thought he should have came out there gunning much sooner than what he did. I don't know.
He still fights with the straight up standard European style of the British fighters, the UK fighters. He doesn't have that ability. Well, I don't say ability. He doesn't have it in his repertoire at this present moment of being more rhythmic and moving, slipping. He's standing straight up. And the reason that he was so competitive with Bivol is because Bivol is the same fighter. Okay? But if he were to fight, someone that has a little more of that mobility, let's just say like when Andre Ward was competing, Andre would take him apart because his head is on the line. He's straight up and down. He's very predictable in his offensive attack, and the defensive knack is not there. That's why I said I would like to see him with a Western coach. There's some Western coaches out here that could help him, and one of the top coaches that I named was just Derek James because of his success that he's had most recently over the past couple of years with 2 unified champions and that young stud of a fighter that he had just a couple of weeks back when he fought on Showbox. So it's like, I would like to see that. I would like to see him get his hands on a young man like that, you know. But that's all. I'm not, I'm not saying it don't even have to be Derek James. It could be another one of the brothers from over here. Like you saw tonight, Buddy McGirt working with Chisora. It could be Buddy McGirt. But I'm just saying he needs a little something added to him. And remember, when you talk about adding a Western coach, you don't even have to get rid of the present coaches. But these guys are behind. They need more. And it's okay to be regional champ or regional contender. But if you want to step up and kick the doors in, you have to step up your game. Lennox Lewis has proven thus far to be the only one smart enough to go over here and do that for himself outside of the next fighter that we could talk about on this, Chris Eubank Jr., who went and got Roy Jones Jr. to work with him. And boy, did it pay off tonight. This man went out there and got the fighter of the 90s, the fighter of the decade of the 90s, to be his trainer. And Chris Eubank fought like a Western fighter tonight. He fought like a fighter from the U.S. And Morrison was not ready for that Chris Eubank. The Chris Eubank who fought, what was that? The Korobov, or what was the guy he fought that threw his shoulder out or whatever? When he fought that fighter, he was still fighting out of his Eastern style, British style, being a slugger, a gunslinger, kind of like Conor Benn, right? Just a bigger version. Well, tonight, he fought with rhythmic and perpetual motion, which is what Kurt Sugar coins that phrase. I give him credit for that. And he fought with patience. He fought with tactic and strategy. He made his punches count. He beat, what's his name? Marcus Morrison. He beat Marcus Morrison up tonight, Reggie. He really had that guy busted up. He had him worried about where the punches were coming from and everything. And KQKC had remarked in his call of that fight, he said that he's imitating Roy Jones. And I beg to differ. I said, it's not that he's imitating Roy Jones. Roy gave him something that wasn't there before. He gave him the opportunity to show him how to move and hide his punches and things like that. Walk around the guy, take a walk, don't stand in front of the guy. Don't do the things that he was known to be doing. And it confused Marcus Morrison, and it put him in a position where he was second all night long. And Eubank looked better than he ever had. And the other guy was busted up and Eubank wasn't. He fought a hell of a fight, and he fought and listened to his trainer, and he did everything. You could hear Roy calling out certain instructions. Walk away. And he would step back, dance around, reposition himself, make this guy run into more shots. It was beautiful. And again, the example that I was showing was that here you have a fighter who went to the West and found a trainer to work with him to make him better. And in one fight, Eubank looked formidable. Now, there were still people saying out there, like, yeah, he won this one, but Charlo's still going to kick his butt and this and that, blah, blah, blah. I said, pump your brakes. Because he just showed something that he had never shown before. And this was just the first outing. You give this guy who was able to look so good with one camp of working with Roy, You give him 2 or 3 camps, and he gonna give everybody trouble because he has shown that he can improve, especially with guys who are stagnant and ain't doing nothing and sitting back on social media and stuff like that. The kid is hungry. How do you know he's so hungry, Stormy? He went and got one of the best fighters in the past 30 years over here to be his trainer, and he showed a hell of an improvement in one fight against a guy who was incredibly strong. If the old Eubank was fighting this guy Marcus Morrison tonight, he might have got knocked out, because this kid was a knockout puncher. But he was punches away from being knocked out himself. And the only reason he didn't get knocked out is because Roy pulled Eubank back. He didn't want him to go all out. He just wanted him to look very good and be very successful and keep his guy safe and keep him without taking much punishment. And he did all of that. Check, 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 check. Right down the list. That's exactly what he did. And it looked great. And I can't wait to see him again. But it was because he wants to be better. You got guys out there right now that think they this stuff right now, and they don't think they need improvement. Walking away from trainers and going and do other things and ain't accomplished a darn thing. So kudos to Chris Eubank Jr. for what he did. You got something on it? Did you see the fight?
Yeah, I did watch that one, man. And I got to be a little different on this one. I thought he was trying to sit there and mimic Roy Jones a little way too much in the fight. He's doing a lot of what Roy Jones did. I don't think it was Roy Jones telling him to do that. Chris Eubanks has a tendency of doing what he wants inside of fights. I think that was the issue with his father. It was the issue with other trainers he has had. And I think he's going in here, maybe he thought he was that much ahead of Marcus Brown to kind of pull that off. Then he did some things where he would turn his back and kind of walk away from the guy. Like if he was in there against any more aggressive style fighter, it would punch him from behind his back to punch him in his face. But he went in here. He kept a patient fight. That was always the problem with him in his career, is that he fought at one speed. And that was just to go stepping on the gas, letting off a bunch of volume of punches. He did his thing. When he found this guy was hurt, he hurt the guy at one point, pulled away, told the guy to walk back out towards the center of the ring. Hurt the guy again, start going with a flurry on the guy, walk away, go back to the center of the ring. But he showed patience. But in some fights, he ain't going to be able to do that. And I thought he was going to end up letting this guy back into this fight. And this guy buzzed him twice in that fight. It was a good victory just based on that patient style. I think he could have found where he could have stepped on the gas multiple times going into the fight. Charlo in him would thrash Eubanks. He'll get thrashed going in there against Charlo. I want to see the fight, but I got Charlo in them thrashing Eubanks. Got Triple G thrashing Eubanks. That's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with you having your thoughts on it. But I saw a marked improvement, and I saw a fighter that didn't fight the way he normally fights. And again, time tells all truth, right? As Drew Titan likes to say, and we will see going forward. My thing is, hopefully he'll stick with Roy, because Roy got the best effort out of him thus far. If, again, fighters sometimes get to thinking that they're smarter and they know everything and whatnot. You know, Oscar De La Hoya went through a lot of trainers, but he had a couple that were very, very good for him, and he still got away from both of those trainers. So it's like it's something that, you know, I recognize, but hey, man, you know, we'll have to see what the future holds. But I do believe that there's a difference. And if he decides to continue to commit to where he is right now, there's a great chance of having some very positive results out of all of this. So, you know, but it remains to be seen. But I think think that's it. We covered all of the matches on that. There was a heavyweight fight on there. The big Johnny Fisher, that kid, big Irish kid. They had him, but he was nothing to write home about. I think that was the opening bout for that card. But what a big day of boxing. We saw fights on Sky Sports. We had Fox and Fox pay-per-view. Carried us all the way through the afternoon and evening, because I think the card started at 1 p.m. Central, my time, and it took us all the way into after 11 o'clock tonight. So what a day, a big day of boxing. Great show, Reggie. This was a great talk on what we had a chance to witness. Go ahead and give us your final thoughts and let everybody know where they can follow you at.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Another great post fight, man. Thanks everybody coming through. You guys can catch me over on Boxing Conversation with Reggie Owens, the main channel, and also a backup channel with just the number 2 at the end. And y'all keep following through, man, with these boxing matches. We're going to see what Billy Joe can do against Canelo coming up next Saturday. But that's all I got. Thank you guys for coming through.
Yeah, man. We got fights every weekend for the month of May. So we will be back and back and back. And that's a great thing. I think that people should also know that when you're checking us out, if you want to hear pre-fight breakdowns from Reggie and I, we got the Friday night chop session where we kind of talk about the fights coming up for the weekend. So you catch us on that Friday. Just like last night, we were able to do pre-fight breakdowns and whatnot, how we thought things were going to go. And that's a great time to catch us that, because I used to do a lot of pre-fight videos, but I prefer to save those type of tidbits for the Friday night chop session, give you a reason to tune in and to also not sound repetitive. So we'll be doing that going forward, and welcome everyone out there to be a part of that process. But yeah, man, great show. We had a lot of viewers out there. We're over 50 thumbs up, which is great. And we're going to keep this thing going. We'll be back next weekend with a post-fight show after those fights from next weekend. So this is Stormybman from my man Boxing Conversation with Reggie Owens. We're gonna wrap everything up this evening, say peace, and catch you guys on the next one. Peace.